off by surprise there. So, excellent. Welcome to Monday Meets, the program for the Willow, by the Willow, and about the Willow, and its program. I'm your Director of Communications here at the Willow, Will Averill, joined today by Adrianne Nuñez, our Youth Prevention Coordinator. Hi, Adrianne. Thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, today we're going to talk about a new program that is being offered by the Willow called Claire's Community in conjunction with the wonderful organization Be More Like Claire, and based on some curriculum from our friends at the Family Peace Initiative. But before we do, I just wanted to let folks know this is a live on Facebook recording. We would really love to have any questions that you might want to give us. So if you do have any questions throughout the program, I do have my phone on me. I'm keeping track of the thread and would be happy to get those integrated into the conversation. So please put your questions in the comments. If you do not feel comfortable asking a question in the public comment field, you can email me at waverill@willowdvcenter.org, and I will put that in the comments as well. And we will get that worked in. If it's after the program has already been run, if you're watching a rerun of this, feel free to email me and I'll make sure that we get that question answered for you. If you are in danger and need immediate assistance and feel comfortable doing so, you may wish to contact the police. If you do want to speak to someone at our organization about shelter, support, or any of our services, please contact 785-843-3333, our 24-hour hotline. Or if you want to know a little bit more about us, you're free to check us out at willowdvcenter.org. Okay, great. Got all that out of the way. Hi, Adrianne. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. It's only been like a couple of weeks since you've been here last. You're with us for Human Trafficking Awareness Month, wearing your other previous hat. But let's talk a little bit about Claire's Community. This is a really exciting new program, and I'm so excited we're finally getting an opportunity to talk about this. I think Megan and I, Megan had previously held this position, we were going to talk about it just before she left. So this is the first time we're actually getting to chat about it here on Monday Meetings.
Oh, excellent. Okay, yeah.
So do you want to just kind of tell us about how you kind of came, for those who didn't catch the previous one, how you came to join the Willow, how you came into this role, and just a little bit about it.
Yeah, for sure. So I started working here at the Willow in 2017, first in our human trafficking role, eventually moved over to our Hope Works program where I worked with families, did healthy relationships and parenting sort of things, and helped with employment. I did that for a few years, and then I got to go into this role. So this is my first role in a domestic violence agency where I'm not doing direct service, where I get to do education, which is really exciting because I love being able to do that. So in this role, part of my role is Claire's Community, which we'll, get into here. And then part of my role is also going into the schools and doing any sort of like domestic violence awareness presentation type of thing. So like this month is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And one of the things that we do just regularly throughout the year is we go into the 8th grade classrooms here in USD 497 and do a teen dating violence presentation to those kids. And I try and keep it fun. I mean, it feels like I was just in 8th grade, even though that was, more than 20 years ago. So we'll, try to do some statistics and stuff, but then we'll do fun things like listen to some lyrics and popular songs and kind of break down what's healthy versus unhealthy there. And that's why I'm on TikTok, is to make sure I know which songs are cool now. And that's the only reason that I'm on TikTok. So, I'll use that to try and kind of connect with the kids that way. So, but then other than that, I also do Claire's Community now. It's a big portion of my job. And so Claire's Community came about because Be More Like Claire, who you mentioned in the beginning, the executive director, Shannon Van Lanningham, she wanted to start this project and this curriculum. She lost her daughter, Claire, to domestic violence. She felt like she wished that she had had all of the information about what was healthy versus unhealthy when, her daughter, Claire, was talking to her about her relationship. So she felt like, she would have had better advice for her and been able to help her more. And so she really wants, the goal of this project is to make sure that any adult that is working with kids or just has like young people in their lives, like that they have the correct knowledge about what's healthy versus unhealthy, what red flags are, and then just how to really like show up for that young person in a positive way that makes that kid feel like they're loved and they're worthy, and they are worthy to be in a safe relationship, so that is really kind of like the core of our curriculum, is trying to help adults, safe adults, have that correct information, because we want to really get to the root of this. Prevention work really starts when people, are young, and helping them kind of break those cycles early. So
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating, having kind of tagged along with you to a few of those programs, and also having presented the teen dating violence on a couple of occasions. I'm amazed by how much more language youth today have surrounding healthy relationships that we didn't have. I mean,
yeah,
my education was basically one class specifically on sex in science, that it was like reproductive day in science, and we had that one awkward day where Mr. Saunders kind of told us a little bit about the birds and the bees and all that, but we never really spent any time actually talking about what constitutes healthy relationship, what constitutes boundaries. And I think it's great to see that the kids these days have the beginnings of those conversations at hand, and they have some of that language down, because you can tell when we talk to them and when we go in that they are more used to talking about it than certainly we were. But it's great that we're getting in there and speaking to them about it. So that, certainly I think they have a better handle on it to some degree than maybe we do as adults in the community, which kind of leads into that Claire's community angle of things.
for
Um,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, and so how do you find that taking? I mean, because you're basically kind of looking at the problem from two separate angles. How is it different teaching kind of adults to facilitate conversations with kiddos versus
Mhm.
teaching and working with the kiddos themselves?
Yeah, because I think in all of my past roles, I've done the eighth grade presentations. Because we kind of did it as a team, and now things have changed, and so this specific role I'm in now is totally responsible for that. But I have done those presentations in the past. But I think what's different from basically presenting to kids directly, to adults, is that, well, one, kind of just depending on where the adult is coming from, the ideas that they have, it might be a lot more difficult for them to kind of change their thinking about those dynamics of domestic violence and abuse and that sort of thing. So, there's a lot of, I think, like, just really having to like rewire your brain about how certain things work and everything. And I think also too is just a big part of understanding this is that when we're doing work, and this isn't just for in this situation, but anytime you're doing work where you're helping other people, it's just really important that you are in a good headspace yourself, and you understand your own trauma, and you understand your triggers and different things like that. And so a lot of this, part of this curriculum is really working on that too. So we do have some parts of our curriculum that can be a little emotional, because we're kind of trying to get through some stuff and figure out like, why I think the way that I do, or where, like, what's the root, like, cause of why I've come to where I am today, and I have these certain thoughts about things. So we have to do a little bit of that, like, looking inside and figuring that stuff out. And so it definitely is different working with adults, and specifically in this curriculum, doing that kind of emotional piece, and really kind of figuring out some stuff that is just kind of tough to talk about, but also so necessary if you are serving others.
I think that's I think that's really amazing, and very, very true. I mean, certainly some of the training that we go through as advocates involves utilizes actually some of the curriculum that's used in Claire's community, the family peace stuff, the art of facilitation. And that is a very that involves bringing up a lot of your own behaviors as they relate to sex and sexuality, and your learned behaviors, and examining them, and talking about some stuff that's a little bit, that's very, very personal, and sometimes can be a little bit ugly, and acknowledging that you have done things that aren't, that you're not proud of, and that you have to kind of take that on and be accountable for that. And so I think it's great that we're being able to deliver that to folks who will then have those conversations with youth in the community. But I think you've explained a little bit here about sort of how this program differs from just like a standard, we show up, we do a 40-minute presentation, we tell you about power and control. But if somebody is not sure, like, what is this about? What kind of talk us through the process of kind of from beginning to end, if someone is interested in being involved, what they can expect.
Okay, yeah. So if somebody's interested in being involved, you just reach out to us and either go through our website to contact us, or you can call me directly. And what we do is we get you signed up for one of our trainings. So the training is an 8-hour training, and we're usually offering it once a month to the public. Sometimes it's on a weekday, sometimes it's on a weekend, sometimes it spans 2 evenings, which is our February training will span 2 evenings this next Monday and Tuesday, the 21st and 22nd. And that'll be from 4 to 8 p.m. And usually when we do it all together in one day, it's 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. And we're really good about trying to keep it in those hours, not going over. And so it is an 8-hour training, but we definitely don't want to have people, graduate from this training and then just say, goodbye, good luck, and see you later. We really want people to feel supported. So we're taking some steps, like we have a Facebook support group. And then I and the Willow team is really readily available if, there's we want these people to be mentors. So if there's a mentor that's gone off out there and maybe they're having a tough time trying to get through a situation, they can always come on the support group and talk about it on Facebook, or they can contact us directly and we can help them through something. They can give us feedback like, hey, I did this thing and it really didn't go well, and we'd be like, okay, well, let's figure that out. Like, what happened here, So we want people to feel that they are being supported as they go forward. And then we also, we're still kind of like building things up and figuring it out. We also want to have kind of like little continuing ed follow-ups available for people that are still, pertinent to the same conversation around all of this, but just things we couldn't fit into those 8 hours. But we still want more, information out there. And for people to feel supported. So it is definitely a situation where you kind of become a part of the network, really. That's what we want, is we want this network of adults that are safe, that can work together to help our young people.
So, and the goal being that then we will leave this training with having a language with which we can communicate with folks, with youth who we are in our care, or who we work with, about some of those red flags and boundaries, like you mentioned earlier. Claire's mother, Shannon Landringham, had said she wished she had that language, and so the goal is that you will then have that language with which you can have those difficult conversations, as well as access and information about resources that the youth that you work with can go to get that additional help, right?
Yeah, we don't want any mentors feeling like they have to go in and safety plan with people and get them somewhere safe. We just want them to be able to listen and help them find the resources. Like maybe they say, hey, let's call the Willow together, that sounds scary. Maybe we could call and talk to an advocate. So, we don't want these mentors to feel like they have to take on, the place of being an advocate. We just want them to be that safe ear and to help them connect, people where they need to go. And we also hope, our goal is also to eventually get to a place where these mentors are able to also kind of pass this kind of 101, DV 101 kind of information off to their peers, maybe in a situation where if they're at a staff meeting, they can do just a quick little, hey, here's some red flags of teen dating violence, guys. And, if you want to go through Claire's community, they can refer over to us for the full 8 hours, but maybe just a little snippet of things here and there within their work communities or their church communities or whatever they're affiliated with, so that they can, help pass the word and get people informed.
Nice. We do have a comment from our comment section. Tracy asks, I missed the first few minutes, so I'm wondering what I missed as far as a person using the training. And I think we We talked a little bit about that. You went over a few things just now, and that a lot of it is being able to have those conversations with you. Can you kind of go into that a little bit, just to let us know kind of what is a person using this training? How is that going to look like in the way that it breaks down with a conversation? With
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's just definitely going to be just depending on what your relationship is with kids. Like if you're a teacher versus if you're a parent versus if you're a pastor, you know, kind of, it just depends on what your relationship is with the young person that's confiding in you and talking to you. And so what we want is basically for the adults to be able to recognize signs of domestic violence. And we want them to be able to recognize both if somebody is maybe you know, being abused, but also if there's a young person who's having abusive or controlling behavior, we want them to be able to recognize that as well. And then be able to have the skills to be able to talk to that young person about it without them like shutting down, you know, being like feeling judged or feeling shamed or, you know, just feeling like this isn't a person I can talk to about it. So we want the adults to have the knowledge of what looks healthy versus unhealthy. What are some red flags here? And then how do I engage in a conversation that will help you get the help that you need, whether it is to help you stop doing that behavior to others, or for you to, you know, get somewhere or to be safe so that you're not experiencing abuse from another person. So that's our goal, is we want them to recognize and then be able to have those conversations, because that in itself is tough. Like teenagers are intimidating. And so we really, you know, we want people to be armed with those skills and knowledge.
I think one thing that occurred to me when I was working on a Carrier Sisters presentation last week, and I think a thing that many folks don't necessarily recognize and might not realize before this training is a fact that we kind of come to know very intimately as people who work in that organization, and that is that not all abuse is violent. That so much of the power and control wheel and the cycle of abuse revolves around these kind of controlling behaviors, and that's what you see much more frequently, I think, in relationships with younger kiddos. So when you think about domestic violence, we don't necessarily think about domestic violence in youth, because we think about domestic violence as something that maybe happens between married people or adults, you know, but we don't think about how the seeds of that unhealthy behavior start earlier, and they don't start necessarily with physical violence. They start with a variety of those kind of controlling behaviors. So that's something that we address in the program as well.
Yeah, and I think, well, a couple things. One, so like we know statistically that about 1 in 3 kids experience some form of violence. They, you know, whether it's verbal, emotional, physical, but the majority, like 84% of that statistic, is going to be that psychological abuse, and like half is physical and about a third is sexual abuse. So that shows us that the bulk of it is that psychological, emotional stuff. And so, yeah, we really want to know those signs because sometimes they're just not as obvious as a bruise or seeing somebody be violent towards someone else. And then I think another thing to keep in mind is that, you know, we do say teen dating violence, but honestly, a lot of this applies to friendships as well. Like I know for me, I mean, I didn't really start dating until I was like, you know, towards the end of high school and college and stuff like that. But I had a lot of unhealthy relationships in my friendships, you know, that were sometimes controlling behavior and bad boundaries and different things like that. So we still want, you know, for people to recognize, like it can be all kinds of relationships that aren't necessarily safe, that can be causing harm and damage and that sort of thing. So be able to recognize it, you know, across the board. That's what we really want.
Awesome. Well, Tracy, I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for sending us a message and letting us know you had a question. If anybody else has a question, feel free to put them in the comments, or if you don't feel comfortable asking, you can email either Adrianne or myself. I put our emails in the comments field below, or if you're watching the recording and we've already done this, you can always send us an email and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. If you have a need of our hotline, our number is 785-843-3333, We would be happy to talk to you about anything related not only to Claire's community, but also domestic violence in general, and answer any questions you may have. So the next one is one of those trick questions. Who do you think could benefit the most from Claire's community training?
Everyone. I mean, yeah, like I said, we mainly want people who are have, you know, a relationship with young people in some capacity, of whether that's parent or you know, aunt, uncle, you know, family member, but you know, teachers, just anyone who could be just a mentor or a safe person in a young person's life. You know, like we were recently talking to the school district about bringing Claire's community to their staff at USD 497. And I, you know, tried to, you know, we were talking about, I'm like, but I want it to be everyone, like not just teachers, not just parents, everybody, because anyone who's in that school building, anyone admin, who will have a possible, you know, connection with kids, we want them to have this information as well, because who knows, like who, you know, they're going to feel like is a safe person for them. So it's really just anybody who has any sort of connection with them.
Yeah, and I'd like to just throw in, because we probably should at this point, that all of our services, including Claire's community, are free and confidential. So the training that we're talking about is not a training that's going to cost you. It's something that you could sign up for and be a part of the entire community program, including the access to the kind of support group, continuing education, and all that, as a free service of the organization and the agency to continue our agency vision of building violence-free communities. Let's talk for a second about the kind of challenges. We're still a very early program, so unfortunately we don't really have any cool statistics that we can trot out and say this is amazing, you should do this because. But let's talk about what you kind of perceive as what's been successful so far and what's been a challenge so far. So let's start with, like, what's a challenge right now with the program as you're getting it kind of started and launched.
The biggest one is COVID.
Sure.
I came into this program, you know, about around September, October of last year, and I was transitioning from my old position. So, you know, we weren't necessarily ready to start doing trainings right off the bat when I got in there. And so we had our first training in January, at least out to the public. We did some internal ones, kind of practicing and everything. But, you know, that first training in January, we originally had planned to have it in person, but of course things have changed. And so we had to hold it over Zoom. And this February one, we always plan to have it over Zoom because we just want to make sure it's accessible in all different kinds of ways for people. And so we'll of course look at, you know, numbers and see how things are going, but hopefully we'll be able to meet in person in March. If not, we have been getting all of our dates ready throughout basically the rest of the year. And so we'll have a goal of meeting in person eventually. But that's definitely been, I know that was a big, you know, issue before I was in this position, as well as just COVID making it difficult to meet with people, to even get them the information about Claire's community. And then of course, actually trying to do Claire's community, you know, over Zoom. So, but we've, you know, done a lot of things to really try and make it as easy and smooth as possible with dealing with technology, of course. So, but our January one went really well. We are almost full in our February training. We've got a couple of spots left, but things have been going definitely very smoothly. We've gotten a lot of good feedback. I'm very excited to reach different populations with this.
Great. Well, where do you see this going? You know, so the initial launch is to kind of get it out there, build a network of mentors in our community. You know, once that goal has started to settle in and you've gotten a few more of these trainings under your belt, what do you see the program doing kind of in the next sort of couple of years as you move forward in the early stages of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll definitely, you know, here we're trying to do these things in our service area here of Lawrence, of Douglas County, Jefferson, Franklin County. So I think as we kind of get Lawrence, you know, going, we'll want to spread out more and more to our service area. And I know the goal of Claire's community, as far as Be More Like Claire, you know, having that curriculum, they want this to go, of course, out to all different sorts of communities that want to have it. So, hopefully we can help them with that in any way, shape, or form that we can. But just as we go forward, we know that there will always be new adults, teachers and just any sort of like youth leadership positions. Like we know that will have turnover. We want to continue to be here for them as those people come into those positions so that they can go through our training and just keep that network going and be a support system to one another.
Well, I can tell you, as someone who has taken the training, helped facilitate the training, and was around for development, that I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's a very good primer on sort of what direct service advocates do on a kind of day-to-day basis, and the way in which they talk about and approach conversations with clients. It's not the same training, obviously, but it's very similar, and it's a very open and honest look at not only the questions you might be asked by kiddos, but also an examination of, as you've said, your own sort of life and relationships, and both the healthy and unhealthy things that you have picked up, and being able to talk about that honestly to yourself, and then therefore be more comfortable having those conversations with youth. So really excited to see how this program continues forward. Now, you said there were a couple of dates in February, so let's just talk about those, because we'd love for folks to sign up. So how would they do that, and when are those dates?
So our next training is next week on Monday the 21st and Tuesday the 22nd, and we will meet from 4 to 8 p.m. both of those evenings. So it'll be a total of 8 hours that we're together over the span of those 2 evenings. And I think I have 3 spots left. So if anyone wants to sign up, please reach out. You can go through our website. There's a Claire's community page within our willowdvcenter.org website. And then you can also email me directly. And my email is anuñez@willowdvcenter.com.
Great. And I've got that in the comments below. So yeah, you can go ahead and email. And I'll throw in the website is willowdvcenter.org/Claire's community, no apostrophe, one word, Claire's community with an I. And you can get directly to a video about the program, as well as a place to sign up. And then we got where in the next few trainings. We covered that. I think that's just about it. It's shout out time. I always like to end with a little informal like shout out, and I'd like to actually throw in one if I could to start it off. I'd like to shout out Shannon Van Landringham and the folks at Be More Like Claire, which is hashtag Be More Like Claire, one word. They're a fantastic local nonprofit that's doing great work. They have several programs in addition to Claire's community, helping to develop conversations about healthy relationships within the community. So please go check them out. They're a great organization, and they deserve your support and awareness. And how about you, Adrianne? Who would you like to shout out here?
Well, you took mine. I was going to shout out Shannon. No, you're
sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's what I was thinking. Well, and then also just, of course, all the folks over at Family Peace Initiative. Like you said, a lot of this curriculum is based off of some of the stuff we do with them, and they're really fantastic. And they do their training mainly with people who are in advocacy roles or in batterer intervention programs and things like that. But I feel like so many people could benefit from it. Like, I'm like, I should just give this as a gift card. Like, hey, I'm sending you to Art of Facilitation over at Family Peace.
Wow. We used to laugh about Art of Facilitation being something that, like, it was a sort of a trial by fire point. Like, once you've been through it, you're on the other side. You kind of you have that 1,000-yard stare, and when you talk about it, you're like, oh yeah, it was profoundly changing. I'm glad I went through it. I never want to do it again. No, that's not true. People loved it, but it's definitely a thorough internal examination of both the good and the difficult within yourself. So it's a fantastic program.
Yes, for sure. And so, shout them out. And then just, again, like last time, I just want to shout out all the folks here at our shelter who are doing so much, to keep things running through difficult times. And I just am really proud to be a part of an agency with folks like that.
Well, thank you for all the work you've done, both on the direct service side of things, working with clients, and I'm glad that you're being able to take kind of a step back and look at other sides and help share some of the wealth of knowledge that you've gotten from working with clients in a way that's going to help to benefit our community through education. So I appreciate that, and thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time. I hope that everyone will join us next week. We are going to meet with our very own Director of Survivor Access, Felix Rodriguez. We're going to talk a little bit about Black History Month and diversity, equity, inclusion programs, which the agency runs and works on, and how we try to maintain diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility for all of our survivors and all of our community members who work with our program. So hope to see you next Monday at 3 p.m. Thanks everybody so much. If you have any other questions, feel free to email us.